Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to CalSTRS EAC. We still have a couple people joining, but we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Jennifer Spangler, Director of Employer Services here at CalSTRS. Just a quick reminder, a few logistics before we get started. This venue is for CalSTRS employers, so if you are a member or have other questions, please contact CalSTRS through calstrs.com to allow us to appropriately field your question through our contact center. The QR code that you can see is so that you can access all the information, including the agenda and the presentations for today. And then chat is not enabled, so please raise your hand and we will enable your mic for you if you have any questions. And if you have a question that you just don't get to turn the meeting or think of later, you can go ahead and forward those to advisorycommittee@calstrs.com and we will get responses back to you. Again, thanks for joining us today. And before we get started reviewing the agenda, I just wanted to remind everyone about a few leadership changes that we've had here in Employer Services. So I am new, I've only been here a few months, and we recently said goodbye to Kathleen Arceo, our Assistant Director, as she set off for retirement last week. But today we get to welcome Megan Wallach into a new role. She's been in Employer Services for 9 years and at CalSTRS for 15 years. So Megan is a familiar face to you all, but she is our new Assistant Director here in Employer Services. And along with that good news, I have some mixed news to share that also Kim Petz is actually accepted a promotional opportunity with another state agency. And so she will be leaving us. This will be her last employer meeting with you all. So we'll all wave to Kim as she sets off on a new journey. But we want to thank her for all her years of service at CalSTRS. She's been with us for a long time and been in Employer Services for a long time. And I know many of you have spoken to her and seen her at previous meetings. So we will definitely miss Kim. But we're still here to help all of you. So now I will kick it to Megan to go ahead and go through our agenda for today.
Yeah, thank you. So on today's meeting, we have about an hour agenda. So we're going to bookend the meeting with two different updates from our financial services group with various updates that they have. We'll also have an update from Dan, who I know many of you are familiar with, on our pension solution project that we're going live with soon. And then we'll have our traditional legislative and regulatory update from Joycelyn. So we can kick it on over to Freddie from Financial Services with some information about employer accounts receivables management.
Thank you, Megan. My name is Freddie Villarreal, and I'm with the Employer Accounts Receivable Unit. And as part of the ongoing pension solution project, I'm going to go over the upcoming updates on the Employer Accounts Receivable Management. Next slide, please. These changes are designed to create a more unified and consistent experience across all our employer accounts receivable processes. Like you see in this slide, you see the new look for the account management tab. You see 3 tiles, one for contributions, one for the employer receivables, and other tile for the system and employer error recovery receivables. Yes, this is going to be the new landing page for the accounts management tab. Thank you. Next slide, please. The key changes are related to accounts receivables due to employer responsibility, the ones introduced back in 2022 by AB 1667, and also employer accounts receivables related to excess sick leave, retirement incentive, and 1-year final compensation. First, let's talk about accounts receivables due to employer responsibility and what's changing. Now, all employer invoices will be posted on the CAP portal. All invoices were redesigned to match the look and feel of other newer formats. No information should be lost. The goal was to keep the existing data fields. And that was the goal, to just keep the existing data fields within the new format. And this will give you a consistent visual identity across all invoicing and it should reduce confusion when managing multiple invoices. And hopefully it will streamline all processes for your accounting teams. You see here, well, in addition of this change of the employer receivable, on the employer receivable, we have that these accounts receivable due to employee responsibility are currently named employer paid benefit overpayment. And we are renaming this type to employer error recovery. This is purely a name change. All documentation, CAP portal references, and communications will reflect this new naming. You'll hear later from our treasury and banking management team also some updates regarding this new name. And you see here in the slide, on the drop down, you'll see the SER, which is for the system error recovery, and there's another drop down for the employer error recovery. Thank you. Next slide. Now, the purpose of all these changes is just to give a better, the purpose of this name change is to be better aligned in terminology with the teacher's retirement law. Now we have the other type of employer accounts receivables, the excess sick leave, retirement incentive, and 1 year final compensations. These were also enhanced and will follow suit with the prior other employer receivables. So all processes were updated, and the purpose is just to maintain consistency with all the employer receivables, and hopefully to simplify the workflow and mirror all employer AR processes. In that way, there is a consistent experience regardless of the employer AR type. Again, the goal is to give consistent experience regardless of which employer AR type you're managing. So here you see that this should be the new look for the employer accounts receivable related to excessive retirement incentive. You have a drop down as well for the receivable, interest, and payments. And the invoices also are going to be posted here in the CAP portal. And just to finalize the presentation, I really appreciate your patience. Thank you. And we are going through changes, so please be patient. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. Any questions regardless invoicing, contact us to employeraccountsreceivable@calstrs.com. Let me know if you have some questions, please. Thank you.
Well, Freddie, it looks like you have a question from Alma. We can get her unmuted.
Alma, make sure you unmute your microphone. Maybe we're having some technical issues with her microphone. Alma, do you maybe want to send your message to the email, the advisory committee at CalSTRS.com email address, and we can get that answered for you.
So Alma, double check that you have hit the microphone icon in your bottom left of your Zoom. You should be active.
Okay, we'll have to come back to her. Are there any other questions for Freddie? Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Freddie.
Okay, so next on the agenda is Dan with some pension solution updates from the Employer Readiness Group.
All right, thanks, Megan. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll be going over some employer readiness updates as we lead into our go live date. Next slide, please. So here's kind of a brief overview of some of the things that I will be going over, which include downtime, project schedule, database refresh schedule, success criteria update, and some information that will be helpful post go live. Next slide, please. All right, so I just wanted to give a reminder to everybody that as everyone's preparing for our cutover into go live period, most of the weekends in today's will be down, specifically on Sundays for maintenance and preparation for cutover. So some of these activities do also include the annual update activities that we have going on toward the end of this month. And just a reminder that the 13th at 5 p.m. is the latest that we can have any period 12 files submitted. That also includes supplementals, otherwise it will be included for next fiscal year. So just a reminder to get all those period 12s in, and then any units that you have as well may be put on a supplemental thereafter. And I did also want to mention about the accounts receivable files and payments. There's the August 27th deadline, which I'll show in the next slide. But I did want to mention that any payments that are received after the payment cutoff date will be returned to the district or sender. After go live, they can be resubmitted on either the AR only file or CC4 lines that are on the F496 contribution file. And those payments should be submitted by the county, not the district, once we do go live. Next slide, please. So here's our tentative cutover timeline. As we're getting closer, these are being more and more concrete with dates. But first off, we have the user conversion validation. That's coming early to mid next week, most likely Wednesday. So the employer readiness team will be sending that out to our employer partners for validation over the next couple of weeks. We'll give you a deadline once we send that out on what's going to be returned to us. And that information will be converted into the permissions for NewSo once we do go live. As I mentioned previously, the August 27th date at 5 p.m. is the deadline to submit those accounts receivable files and payments. September 5th is when cutover is really starting to begin for us from an employer standpoint. So Secure Employer website at that time will no longer be accepting any kind of files. So if you submit something after September 5th at 5 p.m., it will not append to our system, and you'll be contacted by one of our employees to let you know that you'll be able to upload and resubmit that once we do go live. A caveat to that is that you still will be able to do some things within including remittance advices, and that will be through 9/9. So even though on the 5th, you won't be able to transmit any more files to us, you could still submit remittance advices until 9/9. And another date that is not located on here, we will be holding our last employer webinar through Employer Readiness Team on the 20th of this month. And shortly after this meeting this afternoon, we'll send invites out to everybody for that. And then September 23rd is when we will be going live for NewSo. At that time, the contribution account portal will not be available until the 29th, as you can see here. You can still submit files, but you will not be able to associate payments through the contribution account portal until the 29th. Next slide, please. Here's the database refresh schedule. So we just had a refresh yesterday that has July 18th data. So this is important for your success criteria completion. And that will be going on through the 29th of this month. We'll be measuring that. So Employer Readiness will be reaching out to those who have not completed that, and then just confirming everybody's on the same page. And again, we will talk about this in our 820 webinar as well. I did also want to mention again that the Employer Readiness environment will be available during cutover. So you'll be able to still do testing in there like you do today in the Employer Readiness environment. And then after go live, we will still have that environment as well, so we can test as we move forward. And that refresh will happen monthly for the data, so that you'll be getting more accurate, up-to-date data on a monthly basis to do that testing. Next slide, please. So as it stands right now, our success criteria update looks like this. We have 35 employers that have completed all success criteria overall throughout all of our reporting partners. 48 success criterion 2 and 3, which is a production level file, either F496 or VDF file. They have been completed by employers. 22 of 51 employers have completed account receivable criterion, which is either through those accounts receivable Fox Pro right now, or demonstrating the template moving forward in the new system, and putting those CC4s on the F496 file. And I just wanted to mention again that the ERE does have a July 18th date for data on there that was just updated yesterday, and that will continue through go live. So that will be the most up-to-date data that we do have for completing the success criteria. Next slide, please. And just a couple of things to mention post go live. So again, the transition of SO support will go from employer readiness team to employer help. So call or message employer help, just like present day you would now for today's SO. Some of those activities have been transferred as far as password resets and things of that nature. But once you do go live, they will be your primary contact, just like they are today. Penalties and interest. As mentioned in previous EACs and webinars, penalty type 1 and 2 will be waived for the July and August 2025 pay periods. And a reminder, in order to do that, you must submit those 45 days after go live. So within that 45-day period after September 23rd, you'll be able to have those 1 and 2 type penalties waived. Another reminder that Form SC 1553, the verification of employer approved leaves, will be replaced with online verification through Secure Employer website. And as far as defects and enhancements go, we've been keeping track of everything, especially in conversing with our employer partners. And our employer readiness team will be tracking and updating those defects and enhancements at go live. And anytime we have a fix or an update into the system, we will communicate that out as a general notice, and also specifically to those who have voiced those concerns. So we'll be keeping you regularly updated on any enhancements that we have to the system or any fixes that we have as well. Next slide, please. And that's it for employer readiness. Any questions at this time?
Looks like you have a couple, Dan. Starting with Laura Hadley.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
As far as the penalties, penalty type 1 and 2 will be waived. What about P4?
I don't know too much about the specifics in that, but what we specifically talked about was for 1 and 2. And I believe in prior ones in conjunction with financial services, we did not specifically talk. Well, I think we did mention P4, but we didn't. I think. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to speak too much on financial services. We'll take that back, and I'll have somebody follow up with you. But I believe that was not something that we had concretely discussed.
Because I believe that's late contributions, and since we're not going to be able to submit wires after the August, I'm sorry, was it August 28th?
We're gonna unmute Cassie Mallet-Beck's microphone. Jonathan, if you could do that for us, and Cassie's going to talk about that real quick.
Thanks, Cassie.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, Cass, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, this is Cassie Mallet-Beck from Financial Services in the Contributions Unit. Thanks, Laura, for your question. At this point in time, we do not believe penalty 4 is going to be impacted because employers are still able to send contributions. And in fact, we are encouraging you to send contributions. Daniel Garzon from our Treasury Unit will be coming up soon, and he's going to talk about some things there too. But employers are still able to send through ACH, the PayCal portal, all of the mechanisms that you currently send contributions. Those will not be interrupted during this time frame. Now, if afterwards we find that something P4 was impacted based on this implementation, we can take that back and look at it. The overall goal is to make sure this implementation is not causing penalties and interest to employers. But at this point in time, we don't believe it should be impacted because of the ability to continue to remit contributions.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood because I thought they said that payments would be cut off and on August 27th, and money would be sent back.
I see. Yeah. So that's specifically for payments for payroll. Oh gosh, what are they called? The accounts receivable files, like your CC4 payments that you
Mhm.
send separately, or like Fox Pro payments. That's what that is in regards to, not the actual general contributions.
Okay, so we'll just go to the new system to submit wires for our contributions for our files.
You're going to go to the same portal that you currently go today to continue to submit payments. And like I said, Daniel Garzon and Jennifer Ellis, I believe, will be coming up soon, and they're probably able to give you more details than me. But my understanding is the avenue to remit all contributions are not impacted by this.
Okay, and still do the remittance advice through right?
Right. So you can
Okay.
do the remittance advice through. So I believe Dan gave a date of 9/9 afterwards that you can't submit that, but Jennifer Ellis and Danny may talk about that as well as other options if you need to remit afterwards and you can't do that remittance advice. I think that maybe we can have the discussion there if you have questions regarding that. Is that
No, I thank you very much for
okay?
clearing that up for me.
Perfect. You're welcome.
Thanks, Cassie. Please just stay put because I have a feeling you might be necessary for a couple of these next questions too. So Jose was the next one with his hand up. So Jose, if you could unmute, that would be great.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm confused about something. I submitted a accounts receivable record to the new system for the month of June, but I did not do a Fox Pro upload for the month of June. Will their client get credit for their buyback payment? Or do I have to still do the Fox Pro for the month of June?
Yeah, so if we could unmute, or Nikki, if you want to unmute, I think you have your hand raised to answer that one.
Yes, sorry, I didn't know if I could just do it on my own. Hi, I'm Nikki Keller, Service Credit Purchase Manager. Yeah, if you submitted the payment, do you normally submit a file? We do have a couple that do not submit files. Do you normally just submit payment for buybacks?
Well, my typical process was to submit a Fox Pro file and the payment within the next, couple days.
Yeah, it'll get processed. It's just that August 27th deadline. So as long as everything is in by then, it will get processed. The only one that I really wanted, and I hope I didn't cause confusion, is the payments, because the payments have to be received by CalSTRS by August 27th, but the files also, as long as they're received by August 27th, they'll get processed. Did that answer your question?
I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Okay, so we have another question from Michelle Johnston. If we can get her an invite to unmute.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, my question is for Cassie. I had sent an email into the employee readiness team regarding the P4 penalties. My concern is with our first estimate, we're not going to have an issue because that's based on the payroll that we receive from our districts. However, the final payment is based on us being able to balance and audit our August report. So if we cannot balance and be able to audit our report due to the downtime in the systems, I don't see how we're going to be able to submit a final payment to CalSTRS by the normal deadline.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for that question. We've gotten that question from, I think, a couple other employers, and I've partnered with Employer Readiness to try to come up with a way to assist with that. What we're currently suggesting to employers is there's a couple different things. One is using the Employer Readiness environment, like the test environment. You can utilize that environment to upload your file as like a practice file. I'm being told by Employer Readiness, if that's the option you want to take, you want to look at your reported values, not your calculated values, because the calculated values could come, some of the new errors or edits could be taken into account there. So you would just want to look at your reported value, and that should be close. The other option that we threw out to employers is putting a little bit of a buffer there. Those are the couple things that we have kind of come up with as ideas to try to mimic the current process that some of the employers are doing. I don't know what your thoughts are on those.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we'd be able to do that because when we do our final payment, we have to process transfers and transfer funds from our districts to our county office and then issue the payment. And then trying to reconcile that is going to be pretty problematic, I believe.
So using the employer readiness environment, you're thinking that may not work either?
I wouldn't know until I see it and to see how accurate, if we'll be able to essentially clear errors still, if it's up to date.
Okay. So maybe we can chat offline, Michelle, with one of the employer readiness individuals, whether you're working with like Bill or Mike or Nick. I know they worked with another employer that asked a very similar question and assisted them through like how to do that. So let me contact you offline and get one of the employer readiness individuals on a call with you, and we can see if we can figure something out and see if that's a viable option.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Cassie.
Yeah, and I do want to impress that, again, the goal is not to impose penalties on employers during this implementation. So if there's something we need to reconsider, I'm happy to take that back to management. But we do want to, throw some options out there, and maybe some of these options might work. So I'll be in touch with you, Michelle.
All right. Thanks, Cassie.
Yes.
All right, we have another question from Sylvia.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I just want to go back to the Fox Pro question, or I just want to make sure that I understood correctly. So if we submit the buyback through Fox Pro, the payment and the file have to be received by the 27th of August, or is it okay that the file is submitted through Fox Pro and then the payment is mailed out like that same day?
Yeah, so that's the tricky part. The payment would need to be received.
The payment would also need to be received by the 27th.
Nikki, I think we lost your audio.
Closed by August 27th.
Can you repeat that, Nikki? Because you cut out completely.
Oh, sorry. Of course, I've been having spotty connection this morning, so I apologize. Yeah, we do need to receive the payment by August 27th. So if you are going to be mailing it, you want to, probably give yourself a week or so prior to that August 27th date to mail the check.
Okay, thank you.
That is the tricky one.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit tricky, the way our payroll system works, but let me see what we can do for that particular, because that would be the last month for us. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and then, yeah, feel free to reach out to me.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I see no other questions. So thanks, Stan and Cassie and Nikki. Takes a village. So up next on the agenda, we have Joycelyn with legislative and regulatory updates.
Good afternoon, everyone. Joycelyn Martinez-Wade, I'm Director of Governmental Relations at CalSTRS. So I'm going to start with the legislative update. So next slide, please. It is pretty light today. The legislators are actually on summer recess. They'll be back, I believe, the week of August. Let's see, they have this week off, next week, and then they're back. August 18th, I think. But the first three bills on the list here, AB 65, AB 1383, and AB 1439, we've talked about all those previously. Those are all 2-year bills now. So that means this is the first year of a 2-year session. So in 2026, it's possible that they could move forward, but they're not moving in 2025. So that leaves us with SB 853, our housekeeping bill. It also has housekeeping provisions for CalPERS and the 37 Act county systems. And that bill continues to move. So it did get pulled from consent on the assembly floor. We thought that was going to be its last stop, but we had to do some chaptering out amendments. So another bill wouldn't wipe out certain provisions of the SB 853. They were CalPERS provisions, not ours. But those amendments are now in the bill, and it's awaiting a vote on the assembly floor, and then it will go back to the Senate for concurrence in assembly amendments, and then it would go to the governor's desk. So it should probably happen pretty soon after the legislature reconvenes from their summer recess. But that's it on the legislative front. And so we'll go to the next slide. Just a couple reminders on implementation. So AB 1997, the board in March adopted an effective date of July 1, 2027 for our credible compensation simplification bill. And I'll get into more details about the related regulations coming up here. So next slide, please. Just a couple still out there from 2023, but the board also in March set an effective date for the service retirement benefit backdating of January 1st, 2026. That point in time, members will be able to backdate their service retirement just to 270 days, about 9 months, if they are sending in their application kind of in arrears. They want to retire in arrears. So that bill will be implemented before too long, actually, because we're halfway through 2025. And then SB 765, the post-retirement earnings limit bill. So for 2025-24, just to remind everyone, our earnings limit with the increased cap, if you will, under the bill is $80,245. So that's for this fiscal year if you're hiring retirees. And then we will make sure to remind you when the process for separation from service exemptions changes back, and let you know about any other things that are being addressed through statutes related to this. So that's the implementation front. And then next slide, we'll introduce regulations. So we'll go to the next slide. So this is the bulk of my update. There are 3 sets of regulations we're looking at right now, as you can see from the list. We have the credible compensation simplification regulations related to AB 1997, as I mentioned, with the administrative remedy regulations related to AB 1667 from a few years ago now, and then our board elections regulations. So the process by which we have 3 board members who are elected by our membership. So probably those regs are the least related to you. But I want to mention for the first 2 sets of regs, they both were noticed for the official Administrative Procedure Act process on July 11th. So we have information posted on CalSTRS.com under regulatory activity that has the notice, it has an initial statement of reason, it has the text, and it has a fiscal impact form that's there too. And so if you want to look at the amendments to the current regulations, they're matching up to what these bills require. And also, to make a special note, the first bullet under credible compensation simplification regulations is that there are updates to the contribution file layout that's incorporated by reference into our regs. And that, of course, would be slated to go into effect on July 1st, 2027 with the rest of the bill. But there are amendments to that file layout that correspond to the bill. So those are also posted on our website, just like the amendments to the regulatory text, but that's all going as a package. And again, since these packages were posted on July 11th, there is a written comment period that's going on right now. So if you have comments on those, they can be submitted to regulations@calstrs.com. That information again is provided on our website and in the notice. And that public comment period goes through September 4th. For both. And then on September 4th, we're having a board meeting and there will be a hearing for each of these packages. So we're doing 2 hearings at the end of the regular board meeting in serial to keep the comments separate and to not cause confusion for the Office of Administrative Law or anyone like that who's tracking our records on these 2 packages. And so we'll have 2 hearings. There'll be an opportunity for verbal comments. And if you do attend the hearing, you can also submit written comments on that day. And I'm going to stop there because I see a hand and see if I can answer that question. So Teresa has her hand up.
Hi, Jocelyn. Thank you. When you mentioned that the format is changing in the new file format, the format itself is changing, or is it the data elements in each section of the format changing? Because I ask because our programmer for our financial system is holding back on testing with us on our end because they're thinking the actual format itself is changing. And the last I heard, it was not. It's just the data elements within each section of it was changing.
I think that's a really good clarification, Teresa. It would be the data elements within each section. So
the data elements. Okay, thank you. So the format itself is not changing. The data elements is what's changing.
Right. There's nothing behind the scenes that I know of is changing on any of the technology or anything like that. So it's the data elements, right? And there are existing fields that were already planned for. And I think on just a couple, the title might be changing. And then, like you mentioned, the data elements. So for example, Credible Service has a list of activities currently. And those are going away when AB 1997 goes into effect. And we're focusing on a position subject to membership at that point in time. And so in the contribution file layout that was originally published, there's a list of all the activities. So because of AB 1997, it doesn't make sense to have those anymore. Those are getting whittled down. So that's an example.
Okay. I appreciate you allowing me to get clarification on that. Thank you.
Yes, I think that was helpful for everyone. So thank you, Teresa. But if people go to our website, they can see those changes to the elements within the table, within the contribution file layout. So take a look. Like I mentioned, the written public comment period is happening now. And again, the hearing on September 4th. I do want to mention, actually related to the contribution file layout document for the credible compensation simplification regulations, we need to have a date certain, which kind of pinpoints, the specific version of the file layout that we're talking about. And we didn't pick a date. And so in the text, it references the date on the file layout document. In the footer, there is a date that is supposed to be there. Right now, both say new date. And so we are going to pick a date. We are going to insert that date. It will not change the content of anything at that point in time. And if we don't get other comments that we need to address, we are planning to do an additional 15-day comment period very quickly after September 4th. Our hope is that it can start September 5th, but maybe it'll be the Monday after that to look at that. But again, non-substantive change with the date, just an oversight that didn't get added in earlier. So wanted to let you know about the process though. So that's those two sets of regs. And just briefly on the board elections regs, they are not subject to the Administrative Procedure Act, so they're not following all these kind of notice requirements. But so everyone knows, if you are interested, they will be posted as part of the board meeting agenda for September. And you'll be able to have a cover sheet that it kind of summarizes the changes, summarizes why we're making the changes, the actual changes to the text, and a detailed descriptive summary of the changes. For the most part, they're non-substantive. They're for readability, to make sure it's easier to reference the different sections of the regulations. The main thrust was to modernize them so that we weren't asking for members' last 4 digits of social security number when they would sign petitions, allowing for electronic submission, those kind of things. And so we will also be posting these on our website just so people can see them there if they're interested. But again, if you want to comment on those, please come to our board meeting September 4th and look to our website on how to provide feedback otherwise. And I'm happy to take questions on board elections or any other of the regs packages or legislation. Great. Thank you everyone for your time this afternoon.
All right, Joycelyn, I don't see any questions. So we'll carry on with our last topic before open forum. And we have Jennifer and Daniel with some information about ACH updates.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and happy to present here on behalf of the Financial Services Branch, specifically the Treasury team. My name is Daniel Garzone, and in conjunction with Jennifer Ellis, we're going to present some of our summer updates regarding ACH. Next slide, please. Thank you. So our agenda is going to cover 2 main topics. Again, kind of reiterating what Dan and others I spoke about earlier regarding pension solution cutover details. And we're also going to talk about ACH payment updates, specifically a name change, as Freddie mentioned earlier in the presentation, regarding the employer paid benefit overpayment, changing over to the new name of employer error recovery, otherwise known as EER. The next slide, please. So regarding pension solution cutover details, and again, kind of reiterating what others have said in the conversation earlier, is please submit cash as normal. There should be no disruption to the normal scheduling that you send your contribution payments over to us. But with that, you should be aware that you should continue to submit your remittance advices up through September 9th. I believe Dan mentioned this earlier, as well as Cassie, but up through September 9th, we are able to receive your remittance advices. However, tentatively, as of now, on September 23rd, you may log into the new SO portal to start, again, resubmitting your remittance advices. And the third bullet point here is just a reminder that if you do, when you send your payments over via ACH, please include media ID and or the P&I, or the penalties and interest invoice number. It helps us really to apportion and really do the reconciliation of your payment with those particular pieces of information. And lastly, for the pension solution cutover details, is during the period of Friday, September the 12th through Friday, September 26th, you may see some delayed payments posted into CAP. And this is, again, the period that we're catching up because of the system being down during that period. So, however, payments will be backdated to the date they are received. So we won't make that that updating to the system, but it just could take a little bit here after that September 26th date. However, if you are using our payment portal, our PayCal payment portal, for, again, specifically for ACH debit users, you will continue to see your submitted payments in that portal because it does have a recordation of every payment you submit through that portal. So with that, I'll turn it over to the next slide with Jennifer Ellis covering some of the other updates.
All right, thank you, Danny. Can everyone hear me? Good afternoon, this is Jennifer. I will be talking about invoice type change. So for the first slide, we're talking about employers who submit ACH debit payments via the PayCal payment portal. So as Danny mentioned, and also Freddie from previously presenting, employer paid benefit overpayment is going to be changing the name to employer error recovery, EER. And the PayCal payment portal will be updated so that you can select this new name. So when you log into the PayCal payment portal, your main page should be the select payment type, which is the screenshot to the left of your screen. When you select the benefit overpayments, it will open to the next screenshot, which is make a payment. So this should look very familiar for everybody who has been using this payment portal to submit the benefit overpayment. What is changing is the overpayment invoice type dropdown. So in this screen, you'll see that there's three. There's employer paid benefit overpayment, there's system error recovery employer share, and then the newest employer error recovery. So starting September 12th, when you submit these overpayment benefit overpayment invoice payments, please select the employer error recovery selection. The employer paid benefit overpayment is still in this dropdown, but if you were to select that as of September 12th, it will give you a message to tell you to start selecting the employer error recovery. So I just want to mention on this screenshot, the make a payment, that the invoice number is required for EER and the SCRES, or the system error recovery employer share. Okay, can we get the next slide, please? All right, so this slide is specifically to employers who submit ACH credit payments via the required addendum record. And so, as you guys are aware, when you select ACH or submit ACH credit payments, there's an addendum record that is required that has all the payment related information that will be submitted to us through the bank file. And so the highlighted content are required. This should be pretty familiar with everyone. Most of them, or it has not changed. The only difference is the last field, which is the overpayment invoice type for payment type 01 only. So we are changing the employer type from EP to EE. So when you submit these through the denim record, instead of the previous or current EP for invoice type code, you would want to use the EE. So below here, you'll see example of the denim record. So number 1 is the EER, which is the new name. So you'll see that the EE is at the end. And then number 2, the Sears payment, this has not changed, but it's just here for reference as well. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? All right, so last, in conclusion, for the invoice type change, we will be or updating the ACH debit user guide, and it'll be available on the SO portal and also on our e-payment site mid-August, so next week. And for the ACH credit file specification document, it will be emailed to enrolled employers next week as well. So please be on the watch out for that, and that will also say will show the change in the invoice type code. Okay. As always, if you have any questions regarding ACH or submitting payments, please feel free to reach out to epayments@calstrs.com, which is the email address on the slide. With that, Danny and I could take questions if there are any.
Yes, we do have one question from Stacy. Go ahead and unmute, Stacy.
Yeah, I had a question on the August final 5% payment. It said that the remittance advice would be cut off. It's on slide 25. Would be cut off at the beginning of September, but would resume September 23rd. The payments due the 22nd. So how would we just remit without that remittance advice? Because I don't plan on having any issues with remitting on time.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you for the question. You're correct. So can you remind me, are you guys using ACH debit or ACH credit for submitting payments?
We submit through GovOne.
GovOne. Okay, so it's the PayCal payment portal. Correct. So you would not be, because you the September 22nd date that you mentioned would be in between that period, you would not be able to submit a remittance advice. But because you're using the PayCal payment portal, you would input everything on there, especially like the media ID, if there is one, and then submit it to us. So we will still be
usually have a media ID, but we do put a date.
Right. So sorry about that. Yes. So you'd be fine. So you wouldn't be submitting a remittance advice during that period.
Okay, great.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, don't see any other questions for Danny or Jennifer. So we can go ahead and move into open forum. Thank you both. So this is the period where if you have any burning questions you couldn't ask any of our presenters or anything that maybe didn't relate to a particular topic today, we're happy to try to answer those or take them offline and follow up with you if you have anything. Yes, Teresa.
Thank you. New subject. It's the employer help line. We only can email employer help now. We don't have a direct person to connect with. And we're experiencing some issues with that, delay in responses, et cetera, and with payroll, timeliness of reporting, et cetera. A lot of our questions here at this county, because we have some experienced staff, the questions are elevated. Can we go back to having an assigned analyst with STRS for those types of situations?
Yeah, so that's not our current model. We've had some workload fluctuations. So we've removed single point of contact in terms of having specific teams focus on things. So that's the area I'm over now. So I can chat with you a little bit offline about that, Teresa. I do kind of want to explore, you know, some information regarding the way we're structured. For Benefit Connect and Go Live, we have everybody completing training now. So folks will be involved in the system, practicing in the system, and ready to support you with the system. And outside of that, we'll have some extra folks on the line to help with that to try to minimize delays. But I'd be happy to chat with you offline about any specific concerns you have and see what we can do.
That'd be wonderful. I'm more than happy to talk with you. Set up a separate call or meeting, whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, great. All right, I see Laura has her hand raised. Can we unmute Laura?
I just wanted to say I agree with Teresa. We've had some. Can you hear me?
Yes, you went off for a little bit if you can start.
Okay, yeah. Anyways, I wanted to agree with Teresa. We've also had difficulties with response time to questions, and we've gotten conflicting answers. So it really would be nice to have one contact person that we can call directly or email directly. It would just make things go more smoothly.
Okay, thanks for that feedback. I'm seeing lots of hands, so if it's along the same topic, like to switch gears a little bit to anything that's relevant to the topics we covered today, we could perhaps connect offline through the advisory committee email on anything outside of today's agenda.
Yeah, in the interest of time, we'd like to keep it to today's agenda. Anything that is about the topics that we talked about today, any other operational concerns, we're happy to entertain those offline. But we want to make sure that we're respecting the time of our presenters and everyone who's come for today's agenda. Okay, Megan, did you want to close it out?
Yeah, so we have our next meeting scheduled for, I believe it's the 5th. Hold on, I just minimized my agenda. Yes, November 5th. It's a Wednesday again. So we'll see you in the fall again. And just want to take another second to thank Kim for being with us and being, you know, a personal mentor to me over the years. And we're going to very much miss having her with us. So thank you, Kim. And that's it. Thank you everybody for attending, and we'll see you in the fall.